When was the first artificial heart used?
On December 2, 1982, Dr. Barney B. Clark, 1921 to 1983, a 61-year-old retired dentist, became the first human to receive a permanently implanted artificial heart. It was known as the Jarvik 7 after its inventor, Dr. Robert Jarvik. 1946. The 7.5-hour operation was performed by Dr. William DeVries, 1943, a surgeon at the University of Utah Medical Center. Dr. Clark died on March 23, 1983, 112 days later. In Louisville, Kentucky, William Schroeder, 1923 to 1986, survived 620 days with an artificial heart. November 25, 1984, to August 7, 1986. On January 11, 1990, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) recalled the Jarvik 7, which had been the only artificial heart approved by the FDA for use. Two models of a total artificial heart, TA, are now available that can replace the ventricles, the two lower chambers, of the heart. Eligible patients must have end-stage heart failure, meaning all treatments except a heart transplant have failed. A TA may keep patients alive while they wait for heart transplants, or may keep patients alive who are not eligible for a heart transplant. The two brands are the Cardioist and ABIOCOR. The Cardioist is connected to a power source outside of the body via tubes that run from inside the chest to the outside through holes in the abdomen. The ABIOCOR is a battery-powered TA that is completely contained in the chest. The battery is charged through the skin with a special magnetic charger.
What are killer bees?
Africanized honeybees. The term entomologists prefer rather than killer bees are a hybrid originating in Brazil, where African honeybees were imported in 1956. The breeders, hoping to produce a bee better suited to producing more honey in the tropics, instead found that African bees soon hybridized with and mostly displaced the familiar European honeybees. Although they produce more honey, Africanized honeybees, Apis mellifera scutellata, also are more dangerous than European bees because they attack intruders in greater numbers. Since their introduction, they have been responsible for approximately 1,000 human deaths. In addition to such safety issues, concern is growing regarding the effect of possible hybridization on the U.S. beekeeping industry. In October 1990, the bees crossed the Mexican border into the United States. They reached Arizona in 1993. In 1996, 6 years after their arrival in the United States, Africanized honeybees could be found in parts of Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. As of 2009, Africanized honeybees are also found in Nevada, Utah, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Their migration northward has slowed partially because they are a tropical insect and cannot live in colder climates. Experts have suggested two possible ways of limiting the spread of the Africanized honeybees. The first is drone flooding, a process by which large numbers of European drones are kept in areas where commercially reared European queen bees mate, thereby ensuring that only limited mating occurs between Africanized drones and European queens. The second method is frequent requeening, in which a beekeeper replaces a colony's queen with one of his or her own choosing. The beekeeper can then be assured that the queens are European and that they have already mated with European drones.
What is obsidian?
Obsidian is a volcanic glass that usually forms in the upper parts of lava flows. Embryonic crystal growths, known as crystal lights, make the glass an opaque, jet black color. Red or brown obsidian could result if iron oxide dust is present. There are some well-known formations in existence, including the Obsidian Cliffs in Yellowstone Park and Mount Hekla in Iceland.
How serious is Bell's palsy?
Bell's palsy, a form of temporary facial paralysis, is the result of damage or trauma to one of the cranial nerves. The nerve may be swollen, inflamed, or compressed, resulting in an interruption of messages from the brain to the facial muscles. Individuals with Bell's palsy may exhibit twitching, weakness, or paralysis on one or both sides of the face, drooping of the eyelid and corner of the mouth, drooling, dryness of the eye or mouth, impairment of taste, and excessive tearing in one eye. Although the symptoms appear suddenly, individuals begin to recover within 2 weeks and return to normal function within 3 to 6 months.
What is DNA?
Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, is the genetic material for all cellular organisms. The discovery of the structure of DNA is considered the most important molecular discovery of the 20th century.
How fast do fingernails grow?
Healthy nails grow about 0.12 inch, 3 millimeters, each month or 1.4 inches, 3.5 centimeters, each year. It takes approximately 3 months for a whole fingernail to be replaced. The middle fingernail grows the fastest, because the longer the finger the faster its nail growth. The thumbnail grows the slowest.
What is the most famous roundworm?
One soil nematode, Caenorhabditis elegans, is widely cultured and has become a model research organism in developmental biology. The study of this animal was begun in 1963 by Sidney Brenner, 1927, who received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2002. The species normally lives in soil but is easily grown in the laboratory in petri dishes. It is only about 0.06 inch, 1.5 millimeters, long, has a simple, transparent body consisting of only 959 cells, and grows from zygote to mature adult in only 3.5 days. The genome, genetic material, of C. elegans, consisting of 14,000 genes, was the first animal genome to be completely mapped and sequenced. The small transparent body of this nematode allows researchers to locate cells in which a specific developmentally important gene is active. These cells show up as bright green spots in a photograph because they have been genetically engineered to produce a green fluorescent protein known as GFP. The complete wiring diagram of its nervous system is known, including all the neurons and all connections between them. Much of the knowledge of nematode genetics and development gained from the study of C. elegans is transferable to the study of other animals.
Where is the longest cave system in the world?
The Mammoth Cave System in Kentucky is the longest cave system in the world. The cave system consists of more than 367 miles, 591 kilometers, of subterranean labyrinths. If the second and third longest caves in the world were combined, Mammoth Cave would still be the longest cave in the world.
Who was the number pope?
The number pope was Gerbert of Aurich, c. 940-1003, Pope Sylvester II. He was fascinated by mathematics and was instrumental in the adoption of Arabic numerals to replace Roman numerals in Western Europe.
How does an in vivo study differ from an in vitro study?
An in vivo study uses living biological organisms and specimens. In contrast, an in vitro biological study is carried out in isolation from a living organism, such as in a petri dish or test tube.
What does DOSE stand for?
DOSE stands for Disk Operating System. A program that controls the computer's transfer of data to and from a hard or floppy disk. Frequently, it is combined with the main operating system. The operating system was originally developed at Seattle Computer Products as SCP-DOS. When IBM decided to build a personal computer and needed an operating system, it chose the SCP-DOS after reaching an agreement with the Microsoft Corporation to produce the actual operating system. Under Microsoft, SC-DOS became MS-DOS, which IBM referred to as PC-DOS. Personal computer, which everyone eventually simply called DOS.
How many different organisms have been identified by biologists?
Approximately 1.5 million different species of plants, animals, and microorganisms have been described and formally named. Some biologists believe this is only a fraction of species that exist, estimating there are more than 10 million species are waiting to be discovered, classified, and named. It is estimated that 15% of all species are marine organisms. Most scientists agree that only 5% of bacteria, fungi, nematode, and mite species have been discovered.
Is it harmful to crack one's knuckles?
A study of 300 knuckle crackers found no apparent connection between joint cracking and arthritis. Other damage was observed, including soft tissue damage to the joint capsule and a decrease in grip strength. The rapid, repeated stretching of the ligaments surrounding the joint is most likely the cause of damage to the soft tissue.
What are the stages of labor?
The goal of labor is the birth of a new baby. Labor is divided into 3 stages: 1. Dilation, 2. Expulsion, and 3. Placental. Delivery of the fetus occurs during expulsion.
How long is the Grand Canyon?
The Grand Canyon, cut out by the Colorado River over a period of 15 million years in the northwest corner of Arizona, is the largest land gorge in the world. It is 4 to 13 miles, 6.4 to 21 kilometers, wide at its brim, 4,000 to 5,500 feet, 1,219 to 1,676 meters deep, and 217 miles, 349 kilometers, long, extending from the mouth of the Little Colorado River to Grand Wash Cliffs, and 277 miles, 600 feet 445.88 kilometers if Marble Canyon is included. However, it is not the deepest canyon in the United States. That distinction belongs to Kings Canyon. which runs through the Sierra and Sequoia National Forests near East Fresno, California, with its deepest point being 8,200 feet, 2,500 meters. Hell's Canyon of the Snake River between Idaho and Oregon is the deepest U.S. canyon in Lower Leaf Territory, also called the Grand Canyon of the Snake. It plunges 7,900 feet, 2,408 meters, down from Devil Mountain to the Snake River.
What are some of the accomplishments of female astronauts?
First American woman in space, Sally K. Ride June 18, 1983, aboard Challenger STS-7. First American woman to walk in space, Catherine D. Sullivan October 11, 1984, aboard Challenger STS-41G. First woman to make 3 space flights, Shannon W. Lucid June 17, 1985, October 18, 1989, and August 2, 1991. First African American woman in space. May Carol Jemison September 12, 1992, aboard Endeavour. First American woman space shuttle pilot, Eileen M. Collins February 3, 1995, aboard Discovery.
What is cell cloning and how is it used in scientific research?
Cell cloning is the process by which an exact copy is made of a cell. This cellular process is known as mitosis and is required for the growth and repair of multicellular organisms. Different types of cells in the body differ in their ability to perform mitosis. Some cells, like skin cells, produce clones quite often. Others, like those of the nervous system, will not reproduce after they have reached maturity and have differentiated. The scientific purpose of cloning is to produce many copies of certain types of cells, which can then be used for a variety of purposes, like basic research or the growth of replacement organs.
Who is known as the founder of crystallography?
The French priest and mineralogist René Just Houy, 1743–1822, is called the father of crystallography. In 1781 Houy had a fortunate accident when he dropped a piece of calcite and it broke into small fragments. He noticed that the fragments broke along straight planes that met at constant angles. Houy hypothesized that each crystal was built from successive additions of what is now called a unit cell to form a simple geometric shape with constant angles. An identity or difference in crystalline form implied an identity or difference in chemical composition. This was the beginning of the science of crystallography. By the early 1800s many physicists were experimenting with crystals, in particular. They were fascinated by their ability to bend light and separate it into its component colors. An important member of the emerging field of optical mineralogy was the British scientist David Brewster. 1871 to 1868, who succeeded in classifying most known crystals according to their optical properties. The work of French chemist Louis Pasteur, 1822 to 1895, during the mid-1800s became the foundation for crystal polarimetry, a method by which light is polarized, or aligned to a single plane. Pierre Curie and his brother Jacques, 1855 to 1941. Discovered another phenomenon displayed by certain crystals called piezoelectricity. It is the creation of an electrical potential by squeezing certain crystals. Perhaps the most important application of crystals is in the science of X-ray crystallography. Experiments in this field were first conducted by the German physicist Max von Laue, 1879 to 1960. This work was perfected by William Henry Bragg, 1862 to 1942, and William Lawrence Bragg, 1890 to 1971, who were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1915 for their work. The synthesis of penicillin and insulin were made possible by the use of X-ray crystallography.
What is the greatest number of leaves a clover can have?
A 14-leafed white clover, Trifolium repens, and a 14-leafed red clover, Trifolium praetens, have been found in the United States.
Is Pluto a planet?
When Pluto was first discovered in 1930 by American astronomer Clyde Tombaugh, 1906 to 1997, it was considered the ninth planet of our solar system. During the late 1990s and the beginning of the 21st century, astronomers began to discover more objects orbiting beyond Neptune in the area known as the trans-Neptunian region. On the night of October 21, 2003, Mike Brown from Caltech, Chad Trujillo from the Gemini Observatory, and David Rabinovitz from Yale University discovered a new object more massive than Pluto with its own satellite. The International Astronomical Union, IAU, began to debate the question of what constitutes a planet. In 2006, the IAU approved a new definition of a planet. This definition states that a planet is an object in orbit around the Sun, an object with sufficient mass, large enough to have its self-gravity pull itself into a round or near spherical shape, has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit of other objects. Pluto no longer meets the definition of a planet because of its size, and it is in the trans-Neptunian region, a zone of other similarly sized objects. Instead, Pluto is a dwarf planet.
Who invented the Pascal computer language?
Nicholas Wirth, 1934, a Swiss computer programmer, created the Pascal computer language in 1970. It was used in the academic setting as a teaching tool for computer scientists and programmers.
How much does a cloud weigh?
Although they look light and fluffy floating in the sky, clouds actually consist of water droplets and are heavy. A 1 cubic kilometer meaning 1 kilometer x 1 kilometer x 1 kilometer or 0.6 miles x 0.6 miles x 0.6 miles. Cumulus cloud has an estimated weight of 2.211 billion pounds, 1.003 billion kilograms. Clouds float because they are suspended on dry air. An equal volume, 1 cubic kilometer, of dry air weighs 2.220 billion pounds, 1.007 billion kilograms. Dry air has a density of 1.007 kilograms/cubic meter while the density of the moist cloud is 1.003 kilograms/cubic meter. Clouds float because they are less dense than the drier air.
How far can sunlight penetrate into the ocean?
The ocean is divided into three main zones based on depth and the level of light. The upper level, from 0 to 656 feet, 200 meters, is called the epipelagic or in common terms, the sunlight zone. It is also known as the photic zone since this is where the most sunlight penetrates, allowing for photosynthesis and the growth of plants in the ocean. The middle level is called the mesopelagic zone, or the dysphotic zone. It is often referred to as the twilight zone in common terms. It extends from 656 feet, 200 meters, to 3,280 feet, 1,000 meters. Some sunlight penetrates to these depths, but not enough to sustain plant growth. The bathypelagic zone extends from 3,280 feet, 1,000 meters, to the depths of the ocean. It is the aphotic zone since sunlight cannot penetrate to these depths. In common terms, it is called the midnight zone.
What was the music of the spheres?
Inaudible to human beings, the music of the spheres is a theoretic harmony or music created by the movements of the planets and heavenly bodies. Its existence was proclaimed by Pythagoras and accepted widely in the Greek world. It was later disproved by scientists.
Who verified the Oparin-Haldane hypothesis?
In 1953, the year that Watson and Crick published their famous paper on DNA structure. Stanley Miller, 1930 to 2007, a graduate student in the lab of Harold Urey. 1893 to 1981, built an apparatus that mimicked what was then thought to be the atmosphere of early Earth. A reducing atmosphere containing methane, ammonia, and hydrogen. In the closed chamber, Miller boiled water, then exposed it to electric shocks and then cooled it. After the apparatus ran for a period of days, Miller tested the water and found several amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Eventually, scientists replicating the Miller-Urey experiment were able to generate other types of amino acids as well as nucleotides, basic units of DNA, and sugars.
When were relief maps first used?
The Chinese were the first to use relief maps, in which the contours of the terrain were represented in models. Relief maps in China go back at least to the 3rd century BCE. Some early maps were modeled in rice or carved in wood. It is likely that the idea of making relief maps was transmitted from the Chinese to the Arabs and then to Europe. The earliest known relief map in Europe was a map showing part of Austria, made in 1510 by Paul Daux.
What was the first national scientific society organized in the United States?
The first national scientific society organized in the United States was the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS. It was established on September 20, 1848, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for the purpose of advancing science in every way. The first president of the AAAS was William Charles Redfield, 1789 to 1857.
Which galaxy is closest to us?
The Andromeda Galaxy is the galaxy closest to the Milky Way galaxy, where Earth is located. It is estimated to be 2.2 million light-years away from Earth. Bigger than the Milky Way, Andromeda is a spiral-shaped galaxy that is also the brightest in Earth's sky.
Does catgut really come from cats?
Catgut, an absorbable sterile strand, is obtained from collagen derived from healthy mammals. It was originally prepared from the submucosal layer of the intestines of sheep. It is used as a surgical ligature. The major advantage of minimally invasive surgery is that it is less traumatic to the patient. There is less scarring, and recovery time is much quicker. Hospital stays are shorter.
How is DNA organized in the nucleus?
Within the nucleus, DNA is organized with proteins called hist-1s, into a fibrous material called chromatin. As a cell prepares to divide or reproduce, the thin chromatin fibers condense, becoming thick enough to be seen as separate structures, which are called chromosomes.
Why do physicians use the symbol Rx when they write their prescriptions?
There are several explanations for the symbol Rx. One common explanation is that it comes from the Latin word recipe or recipere, which means take and is abbreviated as Rx. The symbol can also be traced to the sign of Jupiter, which was found on ancient prescriptions to appeal to the Roman god Jupiter. In ancient medical books, the crossed R has been found wherever the letter R occurred. Others believe that the origin of the Rx symbol can be found in the Egyptian myth about two brothers, Seth and Horus, who ruled over Upper and Lower Egypt as gods. Horus's eye was injured in a battle with Seth and healed by another god, Thoth. The eye of Horus consisted of the sun and the moon, and it was the moon eye that was damaged. This explained the phases of the moon. The waning of the moon was the eye being damaged, and the waxing, the healing. The eye of Horus became a powerful symbol of healing in the eyes of the Egyptians. In Egyptian art, the eye of Horus strongly resembles the modern Rx of the physician.
What is red tide and what causes it?
Red tide is a term used for a brownish or reddish discoloration occurring in ocean, river, or lake water. It is caused by the rapid reproduction of a variety of toxic organisms, especially the toxic red dinoflagellates, which are members of the genera Gymnotodium and Goniolax. Some red tides are harmless, but millions of fish may be killed during a bloom, as the buildup is called. Other red tides can poison shellfish and the birds or humans who eat the contaminated food. Scientists do not fully understand why the bloom occurs.
Which foods contain trans fats?
Trans fatty acids, or trans fats, are made when manufacturers add hydrogen to liquid vegetable oil, a process called hydrogenation, creating solid fats like shortening and hard margarine. Hydrogenation increases the shelf life and flavor stability of foods containing these fats. Diets high in trans fat raise the LDL, low-density lipoprotein, or bad cholesterol, increasing the risk for coronary heart disease. Cakes, crackers, cookies, snack foods, and other foods made with or fried in partially hydrogenated oils are the largest source, 40%, of trans fats in the American diet. Animal products and margarine are also major sources of trans fats. Since January 2006, the U.S. government has directed that the amount of trans fat in a product must be included in the nutrition facts panel on food labels. In 2008, California became the first state to enact legislation to gradually phase trans fat out of foods served in food facilities and in baked goods. Similarly, New York City is phasing in a ban on trans fat in all city restaurants. Other states have proposed legislation to ban the use of trans fats in restaurants or schools or baked goods.
How is the distance from a lightning flash calculated?
Count the number of seconds between seeing a flash of lightning and hearing the sound of the thunder. Divide the number by 5 to determine the number of miles away that the lightning flashed.
What does the word amphibian mean?
The word amphibian, from the Greek term amphibia, means both lives and refers to the animal's double life on land and in water. The usual life cycle of amphibians begins with eggs laid in water, which develop into aquatic larvae with external gills, in a development that recapitulates its evolution. The fish-like larva develops lungs and limbs and becomes an adult.
What is the most destructive insect in the world?
The most destructive insect is the desert locust, Schistosera gregaria. The locust of the Bible, whose habitat ranges from the dry and semi-arid regions of Africa and the Middle East, through Pakistan and northern India. This shorthorn grasshopper can eat its own weight in food a day. And during long migratory flights a large swarm can consume 20,000 tons, 18,144,000 kilograms, of grain and vegetation a day.
How is the term zoonosis defined?
A zoonosis is any infectious disease or parasitic disease of animals that can be transmitted to humans. Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, for example, are indirectly spread to humans from an animal through the bite of a tick. Common household pets also can directly transmit diseases to humans unless preventive measures are taken. Cat scratch fever and toxoplasmosis may be contracted from cats. Wild animals and dogs can transmit rabies. However, most zoonosis diseases are relatively rare and can be treated once detected. Such sensible actions as regularly vaccinating pets and wearing long-sleeved shirts and pants when hiking can prevent the spread of most zoonoses.
Which sport has the highest rate of injuries and what kind of injury is most common?
Football players suffer more injuries than other athletes, collectively. They have 12 times as many injuries as do basketball players, who have the next highest rate of injury. Knee problems are the most common type of injury, with 2/3 of basketball players' injuries and 1/3 of football players' injuries being knee-related.
What is memory?
Memory is the ability to recall information and experiences. Memory and learning are related because in order to be able to remember something it must first be learned. Memories may be facts or skills. Memory traces have been described traditionally as concrete things that are formed during learning and imprinted on the brain when neurons record and store information. However, the way that memories are formed and represented in the brain is not well understood.
How does the immune system work?
The immune system has two main components, white blood cells and antibodies circulating in the blood. The antigen-antibody reaction forms the basis for this immunity. When an antigen, antibody generator, such as a harmful bacterium, virus, fungus, parasite, or other foreign substance invades the body, a specific antibody is generated to attack the antigen. The antibody is produced by B lymphocytes, B cells, in the spleen or lymph nodes. An antibody may either destroy the antigen directly or it may label it so that a white blood cell, called a macrophage, or scavenger cell, can engulf the foreign intruder. After a human has been exposed to an antigen, a later exposure to the same antigen will produce a faster immune system reaction. The necessary antibodies will be produced more rapidly and in larger amounts. Artificial immunization uses this antigen-antibody reaction to protect the human body from certain diseases by exposing the body to a safe dose of antigen to produce effective antibodies as well as a readiness for any future attacks of the harmful antigen.
Is it more economical to run an automobile with its windows open rather than using its air conditioner?
At speeds greater than 40 miles, 64 kilometers, per hour. Less fuel is used in driving an automobile with the air conditioner on and the windows up than with the windows rolled down. This is due to the air drag effect, the resistance that a vehicle encounters as it moves through a fluid medium, such as air. In automobiles, the amount of engine power required to overcome this drag force increases. With the cube of the vehicle's speed twice the speed requires 8 times the power. For example, it takes 5 horsepower for the engine to overcome the air resistance at 40 miles. 64 kilometers per hour, but at 60 miles, 97 kilometers per hour. It takes 18 horsepower, at 80 miles, 128 kilometers per hour, it takes 42 horsepower. Improved aerodynamics, in which the drag coefficient measure of air drag effect is reduced, significantly increases fuel efficiency. The average automobile in 1990 had a drag coefficient of about 0.32. 0.35 in the early 1960s. It was 0.5 on average, and it was 0.47 in the 1970s. The lowest maximum level possible for wheeled vehicles is 0.15.
How do wounds heal?
Damage to tissue, such as a cut in the skin, begins to heal with the formation of a sticky lump known as a blood clot. Blood clots prevent blood and other fluids from leaking out. Microscopic sticky threads of the clotting protein fibrin make a tangled mesh that traps blood cells. Within a short time the clot begins to take shape, harden, and become more solid. The clot turns into a scab as it dries and hardens. Skin cells beneath the scab multiply to repair the damage. When the scab falls off, the wound will be healed.
How fast do eyelashes grow?
Eyelashes are replaced every 3 months. An individual will grow about 600 complete eyelashes in a lifetime.
What is St. Elmo's fire?
St. Elmo's fire has been described as a corona from electric discharge, produced on high grounded metal objects, chimney tops, and ship masts.
What are the 4 major cloud groups and their types?
High clouds composed almost entirely of ice crystals. The bases of these clouds start at 20,000 feet, 6,096 meters, and reach 40,000 feet, 12,192 meters. Cirrus, from Latin, lock of hair, thin, feather-like crystal clouds in patches or narrow bands. The large ice crystals that often trail downward in well-defined wisps are called Marae's tails. Cirrostratus, thin, white cloud layer that resembles a veil or sheet. This layer can be striated or fibrous. Because of the ice content, these clouds are associated with the halos that surround the sun or moon. Cirrocumulus, thin clouds that appear as small white flakes or cotton patches and may contain supercooled water. Middle clouds composed primarily of water. The height of the cloud bases range from 6,500 to 20,000 feet, 2,000 to 6,096 meters. Altostratus appears as a bluish or grayish veil or layer of clouds that can gradually merge into altocumulus clouds. The sun may be dimly visible through it, but flat, thick sheets of this cloud type can obscure the sun. Altocumulus, a white or gray layer or patches of solid clouds with rounded shapes. Low clouds composed almost entirely of water that may at times be supercooled. At subfreezing temperatures, snow and ice crystals may be present as well. The bases of these clouds start near Earth's surface and climb to 6,500 feet. 2,000 meters, in the middle latitudes. Stratus gray, uniform, sheet-like clouds with a relatively low base. Or they can be patchy, shapeless, low gray clouds. Thin enough for the sun to shine through, these clouds bring drizzle and snow. Stratocumulus, globular rounded masses that form at the top of the layer. Nimbostrata, seen as a gray or dark, relatively shapeless. Massive cloud layer containing rain, snow, and ice pellets. Clouds with vertical development contain supercooled water above the freezing level and grow to great heights. The cloud bases range from 1,600 feet, 488 meters, to 20,000 feet, 6,096 meters. Cumulus detached, fair weather clouds with relatively flat bases and dome-shaped tops. These usually do not have extensive vertical development and do not produce precipitation. Cumulonimbus unstable, large. Vertical clouds with dense boiling tops that bring showers, hail, thunder, and lightning.
How are animals classified?
Animals belong to the kingdom Animalia. Most biologists divide the kingdom into two subkingdoms. 1. Parazoa. From the Greek para, meaning alongside, and zoa, meaning animal, and 2. Eumetazoa. From the Greek eu, meaning true, meta, meaning later, and zoa, meaning animal. The only existing animals classified as parazoa are the sponges, phylum Porifera. Sponges are very different from other animals and function much like colonial unicellular protozoa, even though they are multicellular. Cells of sponges can be versatile and change form and function and are not organized into tissues and organs. They also lack symmetry. All other animals have true tissues, are symmetrical, and are classified as eumetazoa.
What is a tufa?
It is a general name for calcium carbonate, CaCO3, deposits or spongy porous limestone found at springs in limestone areas, or in caves as massive stalactite or stalagmite deposits. Tufa, derived from the Italian word for soft rock, is formed by the precipitation of calcite from the water of streams and springs.
What are the four types of nebulae?
The four types of nebulae are emission, reflection, dark, and planetary. Primarily the birthplace of stars, nebulae are clouds of gas and dust in space. Emission nebulae and reflection nebulae are bright nebulae. Emission nebulae are colorful and self-luminous. The Orion Nebula, visible with the naked eye, is an example of an emission nebula. Reflection nebulae are cool clouds of dust and gas. They are illuminated by the light from nearby stars rather than by their own energy. Dark nebulae, also known as absorption nebulae, are not illuminated and appear as holes in the sky. The Horsehead Nebula in the constellation Orion is an example of a dark nebula. Planetary nebulae are the remnants of the death of a star.
What and where is the continental divide of North America?
The continental divide, also known as the Great Divide, is a continuous ridge of peaks in the Rocky Mountains that marks the watershed separating easterly flowing waters from westerly flowing waters in North America. To the east of the continental divide, water drains into Hudson Bay or the Mississippi River before reaching the Atlantic Ocean. To the west, water generally flows through the Columbia River or the Colorado River on its way to the Pacific Ocean.
Which countries have the greatest reserves of coal?
Coal is one of the most abundant fossil fuels. Over half of all the global reserves of coal are found in the United States. 29%, Russia, 19%, and China, 14%. The world's total recoverable reserves of coal were estimated at 826,001 million tons at the end of 2009. At the current rate of production, 2010, coal reserves are estimated to last for 119 years.
How many tentacles do the cephalopods have?
Octopods have 8 tentacles or arms, squids have 10 tentacles. And there are as many as 90 in the chambered nautilus.
How long does it take food to digest?
The stomach holds a little under 2 quarts, 1.9 liters, of semi-digested food that stays in the stomach 3 to 5 hours. The stomach slowly releases food to the rest of the digestive tract. 15 hours or more after the first bite started down the alimentary canal, the final residue of the food is passed along to the rectum and is excreted through the anus as feces.
Is it possible to count to infinity?
No. Very large finite numbers are not the same as infinite numbers. Infinite numbers are defined as being unbounded, or without limit. Any number that can be reached by counting or by representation. Of a number followed by billions of zeros is a finite number.
What are the uses of discarded tires?
During 2007, 4,596,000 tons of tires were scrapped in the United States. Nearly 90%, or 4,106,000 tons, of tires were sent to one of the three major markets for scrap tires: tire-derived fuel, ground rubber applications, and civil engineering. Tire-derived fuel, TDF, accounted for 54% or 2,484,000 tons of the scrap tires generated. TDF is used in a variety of combustion technologies, including cement kilns, pulp and paper mill boilers, utility and industrial boilers. The TDF market is expected to continue to grow. Ground rubber applications, including new rubber products, playground and other sports surfacing, and rubber-modified asphalt, consumed 789,000 tons, 17% of the total, of scrap tires. Another 562 tons, 12% of the total, of tires were used in civil engineering applications. These include tire shreds used in road and landfill construction, septic tank leach fields, and other construction projects. An additional 594,000 tons of tires were sent to landfills in 2007. Tires may be disposed in either a landfill or a monofill, a separate landfill only for tires. In certain areas of the country, especially in the western states, landfills are a more efficient option than other scrap tire markets. Landfills are also the only option for tires that are in such poor condition they are not candidates for the scrap tire market. Furthermore, landfills are an important disposal option for the residue and byproducts from tire shredders.
Which volcanoes have been the most destructive?
The 5 most destructive eruptions from volcanoes since 1700 are as follows.
What is the sieve of Eratosthenes?
Eratosthenes, c. 285 c. 205 BCE, was a Greek mathematician and philosopher who devised a method to identify or sift out prime numbers from a list of natural numbers arranged in order. It is a simple method, although it becomes tedious to identify large prime numbers. The steps of the sieve are: write all natural numbers in order, omitting 1. Circle the number 2 and then cross out every other number. Every second number will be a multiple of 2 and hence is not a prime number. Circle the number 3 and then cross out every third number which will be a multiple of 3 and therefore, not a prime number. The numbers that are circled are prime and those that are crossed out are composite numbers.
What is the record for the greatest snowfall in the United States?
The record for the most snow in a single storm is 189 inches, 480 centimeters. At Mount Shasta Ski Bowl in California from February 13 to 19, 1959. For the most snow in a 24-hour day. The record goes to Silver Lake, Colorado, on April 14 to 15, 1921, with 76 inches, 193 centimeters, of snow. The year record goes to Paradise, Mount Rainier, in Washington, with 1,224.5 inches. 3,110 centimeters, from February 19, 1971, to February 18, 1972. The highest. Average annual snowfall is 241 inches, 612 centimeters, for Blue Canyon, California. In March 1911, Tamarack, California, had the deepest snow accumulation over 37.5 feet, 11.4 meters.
When does menarche typically begin?
Menarche, from the Greek, meaning beginning the monthly, is the first menses, or menstrual cycle, of a girl's life. It usually begins between the ages of 11 and 12.
How far is the Moon from Earth?
Since the Moon's orbit is elliptical, its distance varies from about 221,463 miles. 356,334 kilometers, at perigee, closest approach to Earth, to 251,968 miles, 405,503 kilometers. At apogee, farthest point, with the average distance being 238,857 miles, 384,392 kilometers.
What was the Scopes monkey trial?
John T. Scopes, 1900 to 1970, a high school biology teacher. Was brought to trial by the state of Tennessee in 1925 for teaching the theory of evolution. He challenged a recent law passed by the Tennessee legislature that made it unlawful to teach in any public school any theory that denied the divine creation of man. He was convicted and sentenced, but the decision was reversed later and the law repealed in 1967. In the early 21st century, Pressure against school boards still affects the teaching of evolution. Recent drives by anti-evolutionists either have tried to ban the teaching of evolution or have demanded equal time for special creation as described in the biblical book of Genesis. This has raised many questions about the separation of church and state. The teaching of controversial subjects in public schools, and the ability of scientists to communicate with the public. The gradual improvement of the fossil record, the result of comparative anatomy, and many other developments in biological science have contributed toward making evolutionary thinking more palatable. Many rock fossils either erode before they can be discovered, or they remain in places inaccessible to scientists. The value of fossils comes not only from the information they give us about the structures of those once living organisms, but the placement of common fossils in the geologic layers also gives researchers a method for dating other, lesser-known, samples.
Who owns the forests in the United States?
Private individuals own 57% of the forest in the United States. The remaining forest area land is owned by the federal government, 20%. Corporations, 15%, and state and local governments, 8%.
How does a nemeticist work?
A nemeticist is a specialized organelle found in all cnidarians. Each nemeticist features a coiled, thread-like tube lined with a series of barbed spines. The nemeticist is used to capture prey and may also be used for defense purposes. When it is triggered to discharge, the extremely high osmotic pressure within the nemeticist, 140 atmospheres, causes water to rush into the capsule, increasing the hydrostatic pressure and expelling the thread with great force. The barb instantly penetrates the prey, stinging it with a highly toxic protein.
What is red dog?
Red dog is the residue from burned coal dumps. The dumps are composed of waste products incidental to coal mining. Under pressure in these waste dumps, the waste frequently ignites from spontaneous combustion, producing a red-colored ash, which is used for driveways, parking lots, and roads.
What are the special organs of taste?
The special organs of taste are the taste buds located primarily on the surface of the tongue, where they are associated with tiny elevations called papillae surrounded by deep folds. A taste bud is a cluster of approximately 100 taste cells representing all taste sensations and 100 supporting cells that separate the taste cells. Taste buds can also be found on the roof of the mouth and in the throat. An adult has approximately 10,000 taste buds.